I'm on my way to a place called the Stickmarsh. Sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? Stickmarsh. Actually, no, it doesn't. It's actually a world famous fishing place for largemouth bass. It was an old farm years ago, and they flooded it and stocked it with fish, and it's just gone completely crazy. And now it's full of all kinds of wildlife, specifically Roseate spoonbills. And somebody told me they're nesting over here at the Stickmarsh, so I'm gonna go see if I can get some good pictures of them nesting, flying around, doing cool spoonbill stuff, and I imagine I'll find all kinds of other stuff in the process because this place is pretty wild. It's already looking pretty promising. I just passed a field with like maybe a dozen sandhill cranes and then a little limpkin on this bridge right here. And I gotta drive, I think it's like 6 or 7 miles down this dirt road through pretty much swampland. Here's what it looks like. Surrounded by creeks, streams, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, on each side. Okay, this is really, really cool. A lot of people come to Florida looking for this bird called a limpkin, and limpkins eat these apple snails. And it's not too hard to find 1 or 2 of them, but right over here in this creek or whatever this is, there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of them in this one little clump of grass. Here, I'll get a few pictures. It's like a limpkin colony. I've never seen so many. I might even, yeah, I'm gonna set up and get some really good footage too. I managed to squeeze 7 limpkins into the frame. I had the D500 set up for birds in flight, just in case they took off. So I had group autofocus set. That's what I always use for birds in flight. And here's all the other important information about the shot. I have the D500 set up for auto ISO mode and AFC or continuous servo mode. The majority of the limpkins flew away when I tried to set up my camera, but here's a couple on this mound, and then there's a couple behind them, and there's about 4 in a tree behind these, so I'll get some shots of them too. Alright, here's a tree full of limpkins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. It's like a limpkin party. And there's still another 4 or 5 down on the ground, but about 5 or 6 of them flew away. All of this video was shot with the D500 and the Nikkor 200mm-500mm lens in 4K and then downsampled to 1080p for this video. Alright, this is pretty cool. I gotta carry all this gear, look at it, and balance it. And this backpack too. But right up here are these 2 little islands, and they're full of nesting spoonbills, so hopefully I can get some good footage. Look at this feather. Wonder what that came from. Looks like a vulture or a buzzard. The first spoonbill that flew over was a little bit lighter than usual, not super pink like a lot of them are. Again, I was using group autofocus for this with AFC and auto ISO. I'll overlay all of the information on each image. You'll notice that I had exposure compensation set to plus 0.3. That was a mistake on my point, and I didn't notice it until, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 images through, and I was able to correct it. In this next series, I focused on a spoonbill across the way on that little island as it was landing, and I was able to get some really good shots of its wings open so you can see all of the detail in the feathers. There were so many spoonbills flying back and forth, it was really, really difficult to pick just one and start taking pictures, because as soon as you'd take pictures of one, another one would come by. And then the last shot in this series was one flying away from the island. I really like the color of this one with the green in the background and the little bit of blue. Really makes it look good. Spoonbills are really far away, so even with this big lens I have, it's still hard to get them. And I'm trying out this new, it's not necessarily a gimbal, but it keeps the lens steady and you can pan it, do all kinds of cool stuff. But I got a shot of these little guys right here. Oh, they're so cool looking. They're over there. Oh, look, here comes a big buzzard or vulture. Look at him. There's a whole bunch of them over there on the signs that say do not. And here's what the video looks like that I was shooting. I was using the Nikon D500 with the 200-500mm lens in 4K and then downsampled to 1080p for this video. Now check this out. I've never seen this before. A spoonbill feeding its babies. Look at those little things. They're pink, and those little teeny orange bills are even spoon-shaped. How cool. And here's my favorite shot right after the adult was feeding the chick. It's pretty cool. You can see the chick reaching up to the adult. And you'll notice I now have an exposure compensation of -0.3. A lot of birds, especially ones that have white, when the sun is hitting them direct, they act like a big giant reflector and they will be overexposed. So I always underexpose when there's birds that are white, or even the great blue herons have the same problem. Sometimes you have to go even further than 0.3 to get a good exposure. And what happens a lot of times is the highlights get clipped and you lose all of the detail in the feathers. This helps retain some of that detail. This next shot is a different group of spoonbill chicks, and you can clearly see just how large their wings are when they're little. Here's something to consider when you're using these long zoom lenses. The closer you can get to your subject, the better. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I've got this giant zoom lens, I can just zoom in. But the distance between you and the subject can cause problems, especially in hot and humid environments. You get all kinds of atmospheric interference, and the pictures aren't as sharp as if your subject was very, very close. So when you're using some of these big zoom lenses like this, always try to get as close to your subject as humanly possible. Back to capturing some birds in flight. The Nikon D500 paired with the Nikkor 200-500mm lens is extremely impressive at capturing just about every bit of detail you can imagine with birds in flight. You'll notice I cranked the shutter speed up in these two to 1/2500th of a second. That helps stop motion and capture more detail, especially in these wings when they're moving really fast. Spoonbills aren't the only birds nesting on these little islands. I watched this great egret fly back and forth several times, grabbing nesting material and bringing it back to the nest, and its mate would just kind of squawk and bark at it a little bit, and then they would rearrange whatever piece they brought, and then off it would go to get some more. It was really impressive to watch. And then you have this tricolored heron coming in for a landing. I really like it when their wings look like that. And then you have another shot of him with his wings fully out. Really, really cool stuff. It's amazing what a few seconds does to the light in the sky. Look at this spoonbill. It looks like I shot this in a completely different location. So we know this camera lens combination works good for birds in flight, but what about birds in fight? These birds decided to fight in front of me, and I love it when birds do this, but not because they're fighting, but because of all the cool little shots you can get. They make some of the weirdest poses and faces while they're fighting. And these little guys are called golden slippers. Can you guess why they call them that? Well, of course, look at their feet. Looks like they're wearing little golden slippers. But check out some of the poses these things are making. They're absolutely hilarious. And another series of shots where the spoonbill is coming in for a landing. Using that really high shutter speed allows you to freeze time and really see every bit of detail, because this landing happens in the blink of an eye. But with the D500, you can get so many shots out really fast and pause time and go back and look at how detailed everything is. I really like the one shot here where it looks like he's walking in air, and then the wings fully out like brakes to slow down for the landing. I did manage a couple of shots where the spoonbills came in really, really close to where I could back the zoom off a little bit, and the lighting was just perfect for him. It really, really lit him up, and you can see all of that pink and all the feather detail in there. Another series of shots of that great egret leaving the nest in search of nesting material. If you look closely by its feet, you can see the breeding plumage that's kind of wrapped back down there around the feet. This was a really good opportunity to watch this bird, because it would fly off of the island right towards me, really lit up really, really well, kind of scoot over the water and then go sit in this tree and meticulously pick through all of the branches until it found the perfect one, and then it would fly back with that perfect branch for the nest. And this tricolored heron kept doing the same thing. Let's see, which branch looks good? Yep, I'll take this one. When I was finished taking pictures of birds in flight, I turned around and this was standing directly behind me the entire time. Talk about creepy. This is a black vulture. Look at this thing. And if you look real close at this close-up of its eye, you can see the clouds in the sky reflected back in its eyeball. That's totally cool looking. So I'm on the way out, and I stopped again at that place where the limpkins were, and now there is a giant gator up there with all the limpkins. I'll get some pictures. He's huge, and maybe I can get some video too. Now that is one big alligator. I would guess this thing is pushing 10 feet. Look at it compared to the limpkins. And now you know why you haven't seen me wading around in the water trying to get close-up shots of these birds. There are giant alligators everywhere in Florida. I mean, look at the size of this thing. The funny thing is the limpkins could care less. They're just going about their business right behind him looking for food. Hey, if you ever want to come along with me taking pictures of wildlife, I know the perfect place to go swimming. I'm going to leave this video with a couple of shots of that big old alligator. Next time you want to go swimming, just remember these pictures. There should be a little bumblebee in the upper left-hand corner. Go ahead and click on that and subscribe to my channel. I got a lot of videos planned. If you like the video, click the thumbs up and always leave comments. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, questions, whatever. I'll do my best to answer any questions, and I love hearing what everybody thinks of the videos. All right, I'm off to get some more pictures.